all visitors an unusual show business attraction. Their plan was designed to honor the entertainment industry's famous achievers through a sidewalk of stars up and down Hollywood Boulevard and over on Vine Street. They placed 1,539 stars with names in one continuous installation by February of 1960. The Walk of Fame begins on Hollywood Boulevard at La Brea Avenue and goes east all the way to Gower Street. We also have stars on Vine Street from the Capitol Records Tower at Yucca south to Sunset. That part of the Walk of Fame is very short. The Walk of Fame really is Hollywood Boulevard, the most famous boulevard in the whole world. You know, Hollywood has discovered and enjoyed some of the most beautiful actresses in the world, and many of them have been immortalized on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Stars like Bacall, Crawford, Davis, Garland, Lamar, Pickford, Rogers, Ross, Taylor. Their names grace our boulevard for all to see and enjoy forever. On Hollywood's 108th birthday, we inaugurated the Walk of Fame's two-block extension to the west. And that was the day we honored that beautiful lady that I loved so much as I did when I was a teenager, Miss Sophia Loren. Thousands of fans came out for Hollywood's noontime birthday festivities, and really to get a glimpse of this ravishing beauty. Sophia Loren is the perfect example of a star's staying power. The young audiences of today are as enchanted with her and grumpier old men as their parents were 2 decades earlier when she starred in the epic El Cid. She's a real classic. If you think of Hollywood in the old days and glamour, you have to think of the oomph girl, Ann Sheridan. She was just a wonderful person, and she had a very, I think, unique hobby. This glamorous, beautiful redhead used to love to go to the circus and make up as a clown. And I don't think any of the people seated out there watching a circus performance would ever have known that one of the great Warner Brothers stars might have been behind that clown makeup. Raquel Welch is not only one of the most beautiful people in our city, she could not have been more cooperative. I called her and asked her if she would do the ceremony on a Saturday. You know, these people work pretty hard, and they don't usually like to give up their weekends, but she agreed. She came down and was just absolutely loved by everybody. One of the biggest ceremonies in recent years was for Sharon Stone. Ladies and gentlemen, what a privilege to introduce our honoree today. Please welcome Miss Sharon Stone.
When I was a kid in Pennsylvania, I dreamed of coming to Hollywood and becoming a movie star. You've made my dreams come true, and I thank you for that.
Marilyn Monroe, unquestionably the most famous actress of all time, did not have a Walk of Fame ceremony. On what would have been Marilyn's 65th birthday, we officially dedicated Marilyn's star. You know, that Walk of Fame ceremony was very popular. Even Jane Russell came by.
Well, I know if Marilyn were here today, she'd be thrilled, I know, but her hair it'd still be blonde.
Jane Russell and Marilyn Monroe are two of my favorite ladies on the Walk of Fame. And of course, I had known Jane as one of the GI's favorite sweater girls in World War II, and Marilyn Monroe for the wiggle in her walk. And on the day they were to be memorialized in cement at the Chinese Theater, just before the ceremony, Marilyn leaned over to Jane and said, "You know, there are parts of our body known much better than our hands and feet. Why don't you just lean over into the cement and I'll just sit down in it?" By the way, you know, on this birthday that I was talking about, we had just had a big riot in Los Angeles. And Tom Bradley, our mayor, had called me and said, Johnny, can you do something to get back on the news? Let them see activity out in the street. Let them know it's safe to come to Hollywood. So we did this big celebration. And I think it's kind of ironic that Marilyn Monroe, who Hollywood never did anything for her, was called on from her grave to bring back and to revitalize the community of Hollywood following the riot. You know, if you're going to have leading ladies, you've certainly got to have leading men. Tracy, Mitchum, Stewart, Bogart, Cooper, Wayne, Brando, Schwarzenegger, Travolta. Oh, there's a lot of them. One of the most legendary stars of all time was Clark Gable. Gable had started out as an extra, and he had a great feeling and great compassion for the extras. Well, he was so big that he had a clause in his contract that said he did not have to work after 5 o'clock. Just before 5 o'clock, he would start fluffing his lines, so the extras would have to come back and get another day's paycheck. I was very surprised when some people came to me and said, hey, you got to give Robert Mitchum a star. I said, what do you mean? Robert Mitchum's got a star. They said, no, no, no. And he was one of the many that should have gone in that first 1,500 that did not. We arranged a ceremony, and it was great.
Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome to the Walk of Fame, Robert Mitchum.
Unless there's a catastrophic earthquake or some demented person digs it up for one reason or another, at least people will know that I was here.
John Wayne was one of the first 1,500 stars placed on the Walk of Fame with no ceremony. I did spend quite a bit of time with John Wayne, and what a fine gentleman he was. You know, many of our biggest stars don't have the confidence off the set that they have on, even about their own drawing power. I remember the day we did Tom Cruise. He arrived in his limo, and I went back, he rolled the window down, and I said, you know, we're ready. And he says, is there anybody out there? I said, yeah, there's thousands of screaming women out there.
Since I learned that they wanted to give me this gracious gift, I've been having nightmares that no one would show up except for my parents and my girlfriend.
I have spent some very interesting moments with big-name celebrities in the back of stores where the stars are to be presented in front later with some of the great names, and they're all worried that nobody's going to show up. Let me tell you what the process is. Stars are honored for their professional achievement, their longevity, and their contributions back to the community. The Walk of Fame Selection Committee, as I said, is 5 people, one representing each category in the Walk of Fame. Once the chairman decides how many stars will be presented that year, then they select them. Then we send it to the full board of the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. They approve it, it comes back to us, and then we have to go to the property owner on the Walk of Fame and ask if it's all right to put a certain individual star in front of their place of business. Then we ask the honoree if there's any special place that they would like to be. Ed McMahon wanted to be next to W.C. Field. And Farrah Fawcett is in front of our beauty supply store. That was an interesting day. Just before the ceremony, I happened to be inside the store, and Farrah comes running in, and she's all bundled up. And it was a hot day outside. I said, what's the matter? She says, my bra just broke. I said, do you need any help? She said, no. One gal wanted to help her sexy image by being in front of Fredericks of Hollywood. We were able to help her. We've had a couple that wanted to be in front of Musso and Frank because Musso's fed them when they couldn't get work. We try to keep these stars polished and shining. That would take a lot of people, of course, but there are many fans who volunteer to polish certain people's stars.
I like coming down to polish Marilyn Monroe's star as often as I can because I feel she deserves the respect of having a clean star on the Walk of Fame. She's a legend. Everyone from young to old knows who she is. No matter who you are, everyone has heard of Marilyn Monroe.
You know, it's almost impossible, but a star does get stolen once in a while. And we've had a couple that I could think of. Gene Autry's star had been taken out due to some construction work, and we got a call on that one from the Midwest. They were doing some work at Hollywood and Vine, and Jimmy Stewart and Kirk Douglas's stars were taken out. As it turned out, the police found the stars in this particular fellow's backyard. When they arrived to arrest the perpetrator, they found only the damaged Kirk Douglas star. We still don't know what happened to Jimmy Stewart's star, but it has been replaced, and both Kirk Douglas and James Stewart are back home on the corner of Hollywood and Vine. You know, today when a celebrity gets a star, they have to make a commitment they will attend the ceremony. Now, back in 1960, when the first 1,500 went in, the celebrity did not have to be there. Recently, it was expanded and the same procedure was used. The Beatles had been approved many years ago, but none of them had been available for a ceremony, so we went ahead and placed the Beatles star in the Walk of Fame. About a week later, Capitol Records called and wanted to know if we would remove the star and place it in front of the Capitol Records building on Vine Street, because they thought they could get one of the remaining Beatles to attend the ceremony. Well, it hasn't happened. This star, this 300-pound star, was on the Walk of Fame. It was dug up, and I just kind of have the feeling it's going to sit here for a long, long time. If any of the Beatles are watching, come on, let's do it. I'd like to get this thing out of here.
You know, there are a lot of very interesting things out here on the Walk of Fame. I mean, names that are not human beings. Names that were created by human beings, like this one right here. Mickey was created on the train between Kansas City and Los Angeles, and Walt had just gone bankrupt and was coming to California hoping to find greater fortune. He certainly found it with this little character.
Woody Woodpecker, Big Bird, Snow White. There are a lot of other non-human stars out here on the walk. You know, we all grew up with Lassie. And then there's another great dog out here named Ren 1010, who actually saved Warner Brothers, kept him alive for several years. One day, a young actor walked over to his trainer and said, "How much would that dog cost?" And the trainer replied, "Son, how much money do you make?" The actor said, $250 a week. And the trainer said, "Well, Ren 1010 makes $1,000 a week. Maybe he'd like to buy you for a playmate." I've always loved Bugs Bunny, and his ceremony was a real joy for me. We had a lot of kids there, and it was done on a Saturday. But one of the great things was Mel Blanc, who has voiced so many of the great Warner Brothers characters, including Bugs Bunny.
And there are a few hundred other voices that I... There are a few hundred other... Oh, the heck with it.
I'll never forget the expressions on their faces as they stood there looking at this little man standing up there making all of these sounds. It was a great day. It really was.
You know, we get a lot of questions about the Walk of Fame. I was out here on the boulevard one day when a tour bus pulled up, and a lady got off, walked over and said, "Pardon me, are the celebrities buried under their stars?" And I said, "No, ma'am, they're not." And I happened to look down, and I was standing on my own star right at that moment.
You know, there are several people with more than one star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The reason for that is there are 5 categories. There are radio, television, recording, motion picture, and live performance. Quite a few people have 2 stars, others have 3. 2 people actually have 4 stars, Bob Hope and Tony Martin, and Mickey Rooney has been approved for his 4th. The only individual with 5 stars is also America's favorite cowboy. He's probably baseball's most ardent supporter, and he was Hollywood's first superstar. I'm talking about the legendary Gene Autry.
When I first came out here in 1934, I only have one more thing that I would like to do before I check out, and that's win the pennant in the World Series.
You know, many times when celebrities are honored on the Walk of Fame, they invite other celebrities to come on over and be a part of the ceremony. An example of that would be the Maureen O'Sullivan star. When we did her ceremony, I remember it was a rainy day, and I saw a beautiful Rolls Royce pull up, and who got out? One of the men who started Hollywood. 100-year-old Hal Roach was joining us to honor Maureen O'Sullivan.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a big birthday welcome, Bob Hope. Only in America could a young boy rise from his humble surroundings and become the comedy toast of Broadway, radio, motion pictures, and television, and go on to entertain millions of servicemen and mingle socially with presidents and others of heads of state. But enough about me.
I think it's marvelous that Bob should get his 4th star. I think he is deserving of every accolade, of every honor that can be bestowed upon him. And I think it's wonderful that all of these big movie stars and television personalities came here this morning and are not ashamed to come out here in public and show you that they're not working.
You know, when the Walk of Fame was first put in out on Hollywood Boulevard and on Vine Street, it cost about $1.25 million to do it, and the merchants and the property owners assessed themselves to do that. Now, when the new stars go in, that means that somebody's got to pay for them. So when somebody nominates an individual to be in the Walk of Fame and they are approved, then that person is responsible for paying the cost. And at the present time, right now, the day that I'm taping, the cost is $7,500 to remove the blank star and put a complete new star in with the logo and the celebrity's name on it. I get a lot of telephone calls about the Walk of Fame, and one area I get, quite a few about, is in the area of removing a star. Sometimes a celebrity says something outrageous or does something kind of stupid, falls out of favor with a segment of the community for a week or two, and we get the call saying, take their star out. Well, let me just say one thing, ladies and gentlemen. Stars are honored for their professional achievement, their longevity, and their contributions back to the community. And doesn't matter how outrageous their remarks are or what happens to them, their star remains on the Walk of Fame. You know, there have been a lot of magical moments out on the Walk of Fame. One of my favorite ceremonies honored the beloved Andrews sisters. It was a pretty well-known fact that after Laverne passed away in 1967, that the remaining sisters, Patty and Maxine, were into feuding, and I mean big time. As they admitted on the stage the day of the ceremony, the infrequent times that they did speak over the telephone, the calls invariably ended up in a shouting match. When the Andrews sisters were to receive their star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, I came up with a plan to get them to sing together once again. You know, my favorite recording of the Andrews sisters is Roll Out the Barrel.
Don't you dare, John.
Roll out the barrel. I think if I could get them to do one line with me, I would be history. Just one line. Yeah. Roll out the barrel. We'll have a barrel of fun. When I was asked to chair Hollywood's 100th birthday anniversary, a year-long celebration, I agreed with one specific request to be answered. Natalie Wood did not have a star on the Walk of Fame. She had never been nominated. And I said, we're getting so many requests, and this young lady is so popular that I'm going to open on February 1st, Hollywood's actual birthday, a Sunday, with a big ceremony honoring Natalie Wood on the Walk of Fame, and everybody agreed.
Today we dedicate a Walk of Fame star to Miss Natalie Wood.
We thank you very much for honoring Natalie in this marvelous way. She was a wonderful lady. She gave a great deal to this industry and to all of us.
It was a tremendous ceremony with a lot of emotion, because people really love that little gal. I've spent 20 years of my life out on the Walk of Fame, and I've enjoyed it very much. You know, movie theaters were very important to me when I was a kid. I went to the movies. The movies were my window to the world. I not only saw the movies, I saw the newsreels. In those days, we didn't have CNN. You couldn't go in and punch a button and see what was going on around the world. And we didn't go very far. About the only time we ever left town was on a school bus going over to play football 25 or 50 miles away. So movies meant a lot to me, and it's been a great satisfaction to come to Hollywood and be a part of this community and to be chairman of the Walk of Fame. Hollywood is the most famous name in the world, and it is being revitalized right now. I'm happy to say there is no for sale notice on the Hollywood sign. This community, like many other communities that had problems, is on its way back. It's very exciting here now.
The first time I ever came to Hollywood, right over here, I came right here to Grauman's Chinese, directly from the shores of New Jersey. I'm sure somewhere on this street is somebody exactly like me who's gonna wind up standing exactly where I am, and that's the tradition that I'm very proud to be a part of.
Walk of Fame means a lot to the community, and really when you get right down to it, I don't care how blasé or complacent some of these stars may act, I always look over to the person being honored. Not once have I ever seen a dry eye when I pull that cover off of the Honorary Star.
Our sincere thanks to Johnny Grant for guiding us on this delightful journey along the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Now, as you can see, I'm standing in front of Mann's Chinese Theater, which is kind of the hub, you might say, of the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Here you will see such great stars as Dick Powell and Barbara Streisand, Mary Martin, Basil Rathbone is right over there. And I hope that someday you'll have the opportunity to stroll down Hollywood Boulevard. And by the way, if and when you do, you want to have a book along with you. It kind of helps to locate your favorite star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame, America's Street of Dreams. For American Movie Classics, I'm Bob Dorian.